welcome to our Live Happy Stitch Along. Every day we will bring you a little snippet of what instructions you are supposed to do for that day to stay caught up or to enjoy the time with us this month in February for National Embroidery Month. So our first day, we are going to applique down the L, and then we're going to do these little green back stitches around it. If those are concepts that you're already familiar with, you can get right to work. If this is something that's new to you, then let's move on to the rest of the video where I talk about that. Okay, let's open our kit. Inside of our kit, you will find that the pages include instructions. If you got the kit, you will have the instructions. You will have a close-up of all of the, whoops, I turned two at a time. You'll have a close-up of all of the letters that are in fact bigger than the letters themselves, but they'll show that. You will have a page that is shiny on the back. This one is shiny on the back like this. That is your freezer paper, so that is your pattern. And then you'll have this one that is partially see-through. That is your vellum, and that's your placement guide. And I'll talk to you about what that means when we get started. And then this is your materials list. And so if you got this one, you already have all of the day's instructions on it. Okay, so the first instructions say, trim the wool and fabric to 10 inches square. Use the placement guide to align the letters properly. So let's talk about what that means. What we have in our other stack in our kit is the background fabric, which you won't need until later, so go ahead and set that aside. Well, the backing of the pillow. And then you have your background fabric. Now, the first thing we need to talk about is which is the wrong side and the right side of wool. If you look closely at wool, one of the sides will have lines that you can see, and the other side either won't have the lines, they'll be really faint. Which side of the wool is the right side? It's whatever side you want to use. I like using the side where there are no lines, and the reason for that is because I figured that by the time I cut all my little pieces and line them up, that it's going to drive me crazy if I have lines going every which way. And that's why I have the non-lined side, the side that doesn't look like corduroy, be the front of my pillow. So if I had my cutting board here and my roller cutter, again, I think of that, ruler, cut it to 10 inches. I don't have that here in my hotel room, so I'm gonna just pretend that mine is already cut to 10 inches, okay? All right, the next thing that our instructions say is that we need to use it says to use the placement guide to align all of the letters. And that's what we will use the placement guide to do that. Day one says cut the L out of the aqua wool. Okay, here we go. If you have the pattern, if you ordered the kit, yours comes on freezer paper already done. If you don't have it, you'll be able to print out that L today, and then you just need to trace it on freezer paper. And so that's what I did here because, believe it or not, the video stopped recording in the middle of me talking, and I didn't realize it, so I'm going to redo this. So I have laid this down. I put some freezer paper on top of it. It's just the kind you get in the grocery store, and they like by the aluminum foil. And I have traced around that letter. If you do this on a light box, it's a lot easier, but I was hoping the black contrast here would show up. So we've got that traced, and then you cut it out, not perfectly, just close, like this. And now, obviously, because I've already done this once, my L is already cut out, but I want to show you how to do it, so we're going to do it again. Okay, so it's important. It's not important where you put it. You've got a big enough space to put it on there, but if it were me, I would put it where I can save as much extra scrap wool as I can. I'm going to trim this a little bit closer just so I can see where it's going to end up on my little piece here. So it looks like if I put it right here, it will fit just fine. Okay, we're going to see if we can burn this desktop with my iron. Okay, just iron it down. Remember, it's freezer paper, so it's got like a layer of wax on there. And if you pick it up and start moving it when it's still warm, it will come unstuck. So just let it sit until it cools. And when you cut it out on the lines that you've drawn, or same thing with if you're just using the printed freezer paper that I have, you're just cutting it out along the lines. You can decide you're going to cut inside the lines or outside the lines, but I find that it works best if I just cut right down the line. Try to kind of cut the line in half. Okay. Have I caught my, yep, you can see me cut. Okay. One of the things that I like about the freezer paper, if I were doing fusible or something else, I would want to cut this down more, but I can still save this scrap and use it because that freezer paper just peels right off. So these ones I wouldn't keep. It's up to you whether you keep one that small or not, but I'd throw this in my scrap bin so that I can come back and do smaller pieces out of it later. Okay, next step, we got that L done. We're gonna put it in the right spot. But first, let's peel off the freezer paper. Freezer paper, the wool bends more than the freezer paper does, and so as you peel it, it'll just come right off. And there's our L. Okay, if you have the kit, you will have a placement guide, the vellum placement guide. Center it left to right, center it the lines up and down, and if you're going, wow, hers is bigger than mine, remember, I haven't trimmed the back of my my background yet because I don't have a rotary cutter with me. Okay. If I were doing this for all of this at once, not a daily, I would pin down my placement guide on my page because that'll help me get everything centered all the time. And I'm going to want to lift it up and lay it back down, and I want it to always land in the same place. We're only doing one this time, but I still might do that. Okay, if you don't have if you didn't order a kit and you're just using your own things, you can either print this page that you've downloaded onto vellum, or you can trace it. I've seen some people put it inside of a pocket protector, a page protector type plastic pocket, and trace onto the front of the plastic pocket, and then they just use that plastic to line it up. Or you can take it to a copy place and have them put it on vellum for you. Can you see how I was able to move that around until I had it where I wanted it? That will help me keep everything aligned. So because we're only doing, it looks like I've got a little bit right there that I could go a little bit farther on the bottom. Fortunately, these are wonky letters and they're arranged wonkily, so we're good. Okay, then because this is the only letter we're doing today, I'm gonna go ahead and pull these pins out. But I'm going to pin my letter in place. I am using applique pins. Applique pins are short. They're only 3/4 of an inch long, which is the advantage that they have because they catch on your threads less as you are appliquing. They come in a couple of different varieties. These are just the standard clover ones. But there are Magic Pins makes some. The ones that Magic Pins makes has little plastic heads on them that can be ironed, and they're a little bit bigger heads, a little bit easier to grab a hold of. The other options are Little House has glass head ones that are much thinner than these. When I am doing wool, I like the clover ones. When I am doing cottons, I like the Little House ones because they're thinner. Okay, this guy is ready to be appliqued in place. Friends, we are working on the second part of the day one instructions. Our day one instructions say using WEZ 1061. That is one of my favorite colors. It is a green color that's called Canopy, and it has it's a variegated thread, and I really love that one. But we are supposed to backstitch around the L, leaving the left side and 1/4 inch on the top and bottom unstitched. If you look at the picture of the project, where's my picture? If you've got the kit, then you'll have the big picture. If not, you can refer back to the picture in the materials you got. See how I have green, not here, not here, not down this side, because those I did the orange, but I have that green all along here, up here, over and up, and one more stitch on the top. That's the one that we are going to start with, and that's what we're going to do. And that will be everything that we need to do for this first block. And you're looking right now going, she's not using the green thread. That's right, because remember, I need to use something that contrasts enough that you can see it. I'm using, because I have a size 5 thread, I'm using the bigger needle, the 22. Okay, put it in and kind of adjust your tail, tie a knot in the end. You remember how to do that. Okay, we are going to start, it says 1/4 inch in. Now, a back stitch is the stitch that we're going to be doing, and a back stitch just goes backwards. So if you could imagine numbers on a number line that looked like this. 1, 2, can you see my numbers? There we go. 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to put little dots right here. And this might be my math nerdness coming through again because I called it a number line. We are going to come out at number 2 and go down at number 1, and then we're going to go out at number 3, come back stitch to number 2, out at number 4, back to number 3, out at number 5, back to number 4. So the first place we start is right here at 2. Okay, because we need to go back to 1. If we started right here at 1, we'd be going the wrong way. So even though I'm supposed to start 1/4 inch from the edge, I'm going to mark that. You don't need to mark it because it's, you can think in your head what it is, but I got to show you kind of what I'm thinking. Okay, because that is the spot that is number 1, I'm going to start by coming out at where number 2 is going to be, okay? So we're going to start by coming out about right here, okay? That's where number 2 is. Okay, then we'll go back to number 1. I'm going to turn it this way because I think that's easier for us to see. Back to number 1, forward to number 3. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, forward to number 3. Back to number 2, so go down in as close as you can to that last thread. If you get it very far apart, it'll leave gaps in your line and you don't want that. So down at number 2, so go out to the new spot, number 4. Back down in at the old spot, out at the new spot, down at the old spot, out at the new spot, down at the old spot. And you want to make sure that you hit the corner, not this side of the corner, but the very corner, so that you've already kind of turned. If you hit it right here shy of the corner, then you'll have a hard time getting around the corner. So I'm going to make sure that when I come out, I'm coming out plenty far enough to make the corner. New one, back to the old one, out at the new stitch, back to the old stitch, out at the new stitch, back to the old stitch. You'll notice that I didn't turn it right here. As you work, you will get better and better at what direction you can do all the stitches, but if doing it this way works best for you, then just go ahead and rotate it. This is not a huge project. It'll rotate for you. Out at the new, down at the old, out at the new. My tail's getting a little bit longer. Watch your tail. There's only one stitch that we do in embroidery that uses double thread. Otherwise, we always want single thread. Out at the new, down at the old. Now, I'm looking at this going, that's probably bigger than 1 stitch, but it's smaller than 2 typically, so I'm just going to come out in the middle so that my last 2 stitches here are about the same size. Out at the new. So back stitch, when you're doing a back stitch around a shape, I am always on the black thread, or on the black yarn on this. I am never on the color, but I'm very close to it the whole time. Out at the new, down at the old, out at the new. What you will learn and what we've seen is that when you do a stitch around the outside of a wool shape like this, it will help make the wool pop. I don't know if you can see that 3D-ness from here, but that accentuates it and helps it become more kind of puffy or poofy. Okay, out at the new, down at the old, out at the new. Okay, once again, I'm coming up on the corner here, and I've managed to time it such that my 2 stitches would typically be out here somewhere, so I'm going to divide the space that's left. So I come out kind of in the middle of it, and that means I'll have 2 slightly shorter stitches, but that's better than 1 big ugly long one. Okay, right there. And again, we have the same situation where we need to go just past the corner. And new, down at the old, out at the new, and then down the last one, we'll go down to the back. Tie a knot, make your loop, Go through it, wiggle, wiggle till it gets the knot in the right spot, cover it with your thumb, pull tight. Again, this is not a slick thread, so one knot is good enough. I'll just go in and snip fairly close to that. And that, my friends, is our day 1 L ready to go. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. So we need a needle and we need a thread. What kind of thread do we need? If you've bought the wool thread pack, you will have wool threads. See how they're kind of fuzzy like this, and they come on a tan spool. The reason we like wool threads is because they blend in. Here's an example. I want those little stitches that I'm about to do. Can you see these tiny little purple ones here? Let me try zooming in. Can you see those tiny little purple stitches right there? That matches, and they're tiny, and I want them to blend in. So I have used a wool thread because the wool blends into the wool. And that's really the reason we like to use that wool thread. Mine is not going to blend in today because I need you to be able to see it. So when I get through, mine's going to be wonky colors and a little bit funny looking, but that's okay. It will have been served its purpose to show you how to do it. Okay. The needles that we prefer to use for most of our embroidery, we're going to be using chenille needles. This one feels like it's a chenille 24 or 22. Nope, this is a 24, so it's a little bit smaller, and that works with a smaller thread. We like chenille needles because they're sharp and they have great big eyes for you to be able to thread. If you do not have the wool thread, when I first started, I didn't have a good color assortment of wool thread, so I just used one strand of DMC floss. The DMC floss won't quite blend in as well, but it will blend in nicely enough. You can also use sulky 12 petites. Those are about the right weight. You can use sewing thread, but it's thinner and will kind of dig into the background all the way along. You have to be a lot more careful with that. Okay, we need to tie a knot. I tie a knot. The way my mom taught me to tie a knot is to wrap the thread around your finger so that you have it where it crosses. Okay, then put your thumb on it and just kind of roll it off. And as you roll, it'll spin together and make a knot. Will it be a pretty knot? No, it will be an ugly knot. But we're working with wool, not fine embroidery, so we don't care. That will hide behind and no one will know. You can start anywhere you want, but start about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch in from the edge. Okay, so we're going to pull it through. And now our applique stitches are going to go straight out. So we go straight out and down, and now I'm going in just the black, not the green, not the teal. But when we embroider, we want to keep our needle on top of the project. So we're going to go ahead and come out right there because that's where I want it to be. Rather than going down through the project and then doing what we call stabby stitching, where we go down and then we stab until we find the right spot to come up, we're going to keep it on top like this. So pull that one through. How tight do you pull it? Pull it tight enough that it doesn't make it scalloped, but it doesn't leave a loop here. There's a big margin there for getting it close enough to the right size. So again, straight out and take a step forward. Straight out, take a step forward. So the purpose of this is to attach this wool to our black background. This is not a patch on a 4th grader's jeans, on the knee of a 4th grader's jeans, that needs a lot of wear and tear. This is something that is going to sit, a pillow that's going to sit nicely somewhere in your house. So it might get a little bit of wear and tear, but not a ton. And so it's not important for us to have a bazillion stitches in between here. Right up here on the corner, to keep corners in place, you always want to take a stitch to the corner. So I come in on a diagonal for that corner stitch. And I'm a little bit careful when I pull it in place to make sure that it heads off to the diagonal and holds that corner down. Okay, here we go across the top. It looks like I've got room for a couple more stitches. Now yours should be blending in nicely because you'll be using a thread that matches. Okay, we're just going to keep going all the way around. If you use the wool thread, it is 85% wool and 15% acrylic. If it were 100% wool, my understanding is it would just shred. So that kind of tells you what it is. And it really only comes in one width. The brand that we like to use is called Elana from Wonderfill, Ellana. Although Aurifil has a line that they call Lana. Apparently that means wool or sheep in other languages. So the Lana line, Wonderfill has about 63 colors, I believe there are. Aurifil has 200 colors in their collection. I own all of the Aurifil and all of the Wonderfill versions, and I still run into colors that I have to use embroidery floss because I cannot find the they don't exist. So that kind of tells you what it's not the end of the world to be using the embroidery floss. Okay, I think that one's a little too far away to go to the corner. Ideally, I probably could have had this a little bit further apart, but I'm going to do that one sideways and one right next to it that goes to the corner. Now again, these are going to be invisible stitches because you are going to do them out of the same color as your wool. Okay, across the bottom. So this is not a super big surprise as to what the outcome of this stitch along looks like. And so I want you to think for a minute about, or look at it and see what it looks like. It has the kind of an orange stripe that we're going to stitch down the side. And then it has a green edge around the rest of it. And that's what we're going to do as soon as we get done appliquing this, is to do that back stitch around the edge. Again to the corner. Okay, what do you do if you run out of thread in the middle? You get some more. You do need to tie it off in a knot on the back, and I will show you how to do that when I get to the end of mine. Almost every thread, except for ribbon and some of the super fancy fluffy ones, I always start with a yard. I do not like threading my needle. It's one of the slowest things that I do when I'm stitching, and so I use a yard each time in hopes of less stopping to thread the needle. Okay, ta-da, we got back to where we started. So I'm going to turn it over so that you can see how to tie the knot. You can tie the knot any way you want. We just need a knot in there. But I like to make a loop with these two fingers and then go under and come up through the middle, and that will give me a little knot right there. It isn't in the right place because I really need it to be right over here. But if you wiggle your fingers and this side and this side, you'll be able to get the knot right over that dot. And then you can just put your thumb down on top of the knot and pull, and it will leave the knot right there where you want it. Now this thread is not slippery. If it were a slippery thread, I would definitely tie 2 or 3 of these, but you really only need 1 to hold it in place. But just in case, I'll show you again. Make a loop, go underneath and up. The just in case part is just so that you can see it again, not because it needs it. Wiggle till you get it held down in the right spot. Put your thumb on it and pull through. Okay, there. We've got it appliqued. So now I will not do instructions the rest of the days for how to applique. It's the same process. We will applique each of the pieces in place, but that is how you applique. Okay, now we're on to embellishing.